So I'm just going to touch really quick on the center's mission and vision, and then I'll go into the Employment Opportunities Program. For those of you that don't know, the center is located in Riverwoods, and we do have another satellite location in Hoffman Estates. So the center's mission is, the center exists so that people with developmental disabilities can be fully included in the community, achieve personal success, and enjoy a good quality of life. And some of you might notice that Catherine is right there in the middle there. All right, the vision of the center is that we see a future where every person with a developmental disability is an equal, valued, and contributing member of the community. So the Employment Opportunities Program for the center is only 2 years old. We launched it in 2016. Currently, we have 26 members enrolled in the program, 14 members being employed, and we have an average wage with $9.99 where they're working. Some members work at Mariano's. We've had members employed at CDW, Panera, Legoland, and Schaumburg, just to name a few. The Employment Opportunities Program vision is that all CEL members that are seeking employment will have jobs in which that match their career choices, where they're compensated fairly, and that they're happy and satisfied. So this is kind of the process that we follow. We do a discovery, then we go straight into job search planning, job development and negotiation, and then post-employment support. So the discovery is really what it sounds like, discovering what our members really want to do, their likes and their dislikes, their hobbies, their interests, skills, preferences related to potential employment that guide us to find them a customized job. This is Roger. He actually works at Legoland. He tried out Panera and did not like it. So we decided, why stay when you don't like it? And now he is at Legoland and he really enjoys it. So job search planning, we use the information from the individual and the employment specialist, myself, and Mark, the manager, to develop a really good plan to kind of move forward and determine a list of a few employers that we can reach out to. So job development and negotiation, that's Liz. She's one of our front desk receptionists. So we work with the individual and the employer to really create a customized job. So this means hours, days that they can work, trying to fill the gaps of the employer to really create that customized job for our member. So post-employment support could really mean, so we're setting up, those natural supports so we don't have to be there as often and we can phase out. This is Arthur. He works at Panera in Mount Prospect. I only go and visit him quarterly because he really doesn't need me there anymore. But there are some people that need me to come out twice a week, once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, things like that. So what we try to do is do 90-minute sessions with one-on-one support in every aspect of the job search, from the discovery to the job development and negotiation. Discovering career fields, interests, employers, resumes and cover letters. Our members are very involved in the process. We are going to sit down with them and write a resume together and write a cover letter together. We do go on interviews, but again, our members, we're really just there for support if they need us. Maybe an employer is asking a question the wrong way and we just need to reword it. So we're there for that. Developing natural supports, like I said, and then immediate service with us. So we do not receive any state or federal funding, which means there is a supplemental program fee. So for every 90 minutes, it's $60. So we could meet over 3 weeks for 30 minutes each time for one day, and that equals $60. Or some people do prefer just to meet the 90 minutes in total. We are on Charity Navigator 4-star financial rating, which ensures the program's stability and accountability, and there are partial scholarships available. So if you want to enroll, there's a $10 one-time enrollment fee and registration form. You can contact Mark or myself. All of you should have my card if you're interested more about that. Documentation of a developmental disability from a physician, and then we can start running on the ground just right away. After that $10 in that registration fee, there's no waiting, no hoops to jump through. We can start that day. We're introducing new employment classes. So we have introduction to employment, career discovery, setting goals, first impressions, interviewing and resumes, the job hunt, and professionalism. These start next week. Most of you have a flyer. If you don't, I'll hand them out to you after. Thank you, Michael, for that. So these are starting next week, but there's no reason why there's still spots open. You guys can still sign up. Again, our contact information if you guys want it. And then, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Do the employment classes have a fee?
Yes, they do. You'll have to reach out to Mark to ask them.
The satellite campus?
Yes.
Could you just explain a little bit more?
Yes, so the center has a day program called Reach. They have their Riverwoods location, and then just a year ago they launched the Hoffman Estates location. It's at Church of the Cross in Hoffman Estates. I don't remember exactly what road it's on, but that's just for the Reach program.
How many students or adults are there?
12.
At that one? Okay.
Yes.
How many at Riverwood?
Daily, there's an average of 35. Yes.
The satellite in Hoffman, I've heard that that's a temporary location. Was that so correct?
Yes.
Any approximate date on when the new facility will open, or?
Not right now with the Hoffman location. It's working out well for us right now. So even though it is temporary, it is working well. But we are looking to open up another satellite location for Reach and possibly more programming in Naperville.
How many people can attend the classes?
Right now, we don't have necessarily a cap, but probably no more than 10.
What is the REACH program?
The REACH is a day program that's pretty much community-based. They're out in the community 75% of the time. If you want more information, I can give you the program manager's information afterwards. Have a second. Yes.
Can you describe what the career discovery class is?
Yes, so it's everything that somebody would need to know about finding a job, which is what is employment versus what's volunteering. How do we find out what we really like to do? How do we find out what we want to do for a job? Looking at our members' skills and what they need to work on. Setting goals for employment. Maybe you need to work on being more professional or being, so setting goals and then first impressions, stuff like how do you present yourself when you're looking for a job. I can send you more information on the breakdown of the units if you'd like. That might be more helpful.
My name is Eileen Rosenberg. I'm the Director of Community Employment Services at Clearbrook. Just really briefly, it's a nonprofit organization. Our main office is located in Arlington Heights. We serve anywhere from 0 to 3 program all the way through seniors throughout their entire life. We have day programs, we have early intervention, we have residential programs. Our organization is about a $50 million budget. We have over 1,000 employees. We serve several thousand each year. We have a home-based program. So we're pretty spread out even in terms of residential. But I'm going to focus on community employment. So our goal is basically to prepare individuals for community employment, whether it's 2 hours a week or 40 hours a week. Our process basically is we have what we call community training. So for individuals who've never worked before or just want to get a feel, what is it like to re-enter the work world, we provide them with opportunities to go out there, maybe 3 to 4 individuals. We drive them there. We get a staff person. They work at the company. We pay them at least minimum wage. We share wages between the company and Clearbrook, and it goes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. We actually are in the process of making some changes, and we're starting some new training opportunities. One in particular, a retirement community, the end of October, beginning of November. What we found when given individuals the opportunity to be in the community, it gives us an idea how ready they are, it gives them an idea how ready they are. And it's not about the specific training, it's really about the job readiness. What we've seen for those individuals who have successfully completed their training, could be 2 to 3 days a week, the rest of the time in the day program, we've seen a very high success rate with success in the community once they're placed, which basically is 90 days on the job. Many of our clients have been in the job for years and years. I should only have such a stable workforce in my regular staff as we do with our clients. We have over 100 people that work in the community. They are in both what we call independent placements, where basically we place them independently at a job. We support them for up to 90 days, whatever level of support they need. We also have what's called supported employment, and that's basically where you have a few individuals, call it an enclave, usually not more than 4. We will take them to their job. We have vehicles to do that, or possibly we can meet them in their job. It really depends. We're always looking to support the individual in whatever way we can to help them develop their independence. Let me step back. A key part of that also is family support. So it's not uncommon for clients to say, I want a job, and then parents may say, no, I don't think you're ready yet. Although we're not finding it that much anymore, what we are finding is as these young adults graduate from the school environment, they are so ready for employment. They've had that exposure and opportunity throughout their school experience, so by the time they come to us, I mean, it's just a continuum. For those individuals that want to obtain employment, there's not a whole lot we really need to do. And I've been in the field more years than I can share with you. But I've seen it where, individuals graduated from schools and they never had that opportunity to, be at a company and have that exposure and have that experience, where now most of them have that. I mean, they're so far ahead of where they were, 30 some odd years ago. It's amazing. So, so what we do then is for supported employment, we have what I call an enclave. We take them to their job. We're there with them for whatever shift it is, whether it's a 3-hour shift or an 8-hour shift. We'll bring them back to either the day program or their home, depending on when the shift ends. We have about 25 individuals, maybe 30 now, that work independently. And we keep their cases open. We provide, I think, as Center for Enriched Living, kind of quarterly contact. And if they don't need it, then we'll close their case. I will tell you, though, that we never really truly close their case. We close their case on paper. But sometimes when we've had individuals that have worked at a company a long time, and the employer wants to give them new opportunities, they've gotten promoted, whatever the case may be, they'll call us up and say, can you maybe have someone come in and just provide some initial training to Johnny here, and we will not turn them down. We will, because we always want them to succeed, no matter how long they've been gone from us. So anyway, so that's pretty much our community employment services. The types of jobs are your Marianos, your Paneras, but we have, for example, we've had a mobile work crew. The company owner is very supportive of Clearbrook, and it's basically, it's mobile work crew. They clean ATM machines, and they go in the city, and the ATM machines change all the time, and they get paid really well, and they love it. So we have individuals that really, the jobs that we're seeing now that a lot of our young adults can go into are really more technical. It's not uncommon for individuals to go in to do like computer inputting. They have those skills, a lot more skilled than I am on that. And they do a great job. The employers, I have to tell you, years ago, to get into a company and educate them on, hiring people with disabilities and the contributions they can make is no longer the case. At least we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is we're getting calls from employers that are looking for good, competent, happy, motivated employees. And so sometimes we have to turn them down because we may not have clients that have a particular interest in that area, whatever it is. So that is not a challenge anymore, which is great. I mean, in fact, most of the times the employers say, when we say thank you for giving, these individuals the opportunity, they say, no, thank you. Thank you, because it's really been great for our workforce to show that, we are really expanding the population that we are working with, that our employees are. And it's great, and most of the time, there's someone at their company who knows someone who has a relative or child or whatever with a disability, and so they love seeing that. So it's been great. I mean, years ago, it was like, I don't want to work next to someone with a disability. Now, it's really, it's so wonderful to see how times have changed. So, we get funding from state monies, obviously. We can also do private pay. So if I'll get a call and say my son or daughter doesn't have funding, I usually refer them to Department of Rehab Services. We have a contract with them, so that's always a starting point, depending on where you live. We can serve really. We don't have any catchment area. In fact, we took the referrals from Durango. I don't even know where that is, but it's not around the corner. But so we can serve everyone. Many of our clients have been in their jobs for anywhere from, just starting to 10 years. Sometimes they'll come back and they'll say, I'm really kind of tired of this job. I'd like to find something new. Great, I understand. Or, you know what, it's time for me to retire. We had a group of individuals at the Walmart in Wheeling or Palatine. We have both sides, I can't remember which one. And she said, I've been working a long time, I want to retire. And she thought we were going to say no. And we said, of course you can retire. That's fine, if you feel it's time for you to retire, then great. So, but we work very closely with the families. We need the family support. And if we don't have that, we can't go any further. And we really, to me, the key components of an individual being successful is their work habits. It's not about, you're not working fast enough or anything related to that. It's about, are you motivated? Is your family standing behind you? Do you have good grooming? Do you take constructive feedback well? What else? Let's see, good grooming, hygiene. Do you get along with your coworkers? Do you know how to get along even if maybe you don't like the person next to you? Whatever, are you going to show up every day? Are you going to call in if you're sick? That is the key components to success. Just like our employees, our other employees that work at Clearbrook, employers are willing, and so is the staff under me, to do whatever we need to make sure that person is successful. However, if they have an attitude, or I'm not going to work today because I got a party to go to, or whatever the case may be, you can't work with that. We can't motivate you. Either you're motivated or you're not. So those are really what we look at. So when we go through, if someone goes through community training, for example, in food service, they may say at the end, I don't want to do this kind of job. Great, but did you try each day? Did you do your best? Did you come in properly groomed? Were you on time? Then you're job ready. Now it's our job to work with you to find that dream job for you and to make sure that this is a good match. That's really what it's about. So when they start with us, some of them already have an idea of what they want to do, and it's realistic. So that's what our job is. Our job is to work with them, again, with the resumes, applying online, whatever it may be, that we need to do to secure employment. And it doesn't really take that long. you know, before it would take, I don't know, a year. Now, I mean, we're moving people through. We're not rushing them out, but we have so many more opportunities. There's so many more opportunities out there for individuals. Okay, so I don't know how much time I took. I took like 20 minutes, but I think that's pretty much a good overview. We're also CARP accredited. CARP, probably most of you don't know, stands for Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. Because we have a contract with the state Department of Rehab Services, last year or the year before, they said any organization that we work with, you need to be accredited, and if you're not going to get a contract with us. Now, many, many years ago, I think the last time we were accredited was like 2010, because the state dropped that requirement. It was very costly. So Clearbrook no longer was accredited, but then the state came in and said, if you want us to give you money, you better become accredited. So actually, it's not the whole organization that's accredited, it's Community Employment Services, and then our administrative piece. So on the back of the brochure, it says we're accredited, but it's Community Employment Services that meets the standards of accreditation. Okay. Any questions? Yes?
Okay, question. With regards to your supported employment, how do you determine an individual should fit into that section? Is that based on their community training experience, or?
Well, it's really a combination of that. It's really a combination of all the information that we gather. Our job developers meet individually with the individual, and if they've been attending our day program, then we get feedback from that team, residential. Again, it's really the whole team that determines it. I think the difference is with supported employment, if it appears the person is going to need long-term support beyond 90 days, then it's pretty much determined that they need to be in more of an enclave setting. So, does that answer your question? Yeah. Let me just tell you, because sometimes it does take a long time, but there's always the one story that you know, kind of melts my heart. So we had two individuals that we placed at Lowe's in Vernon Hills about 7 or 8 years ago. So we drove them there every day, and we stayed with them, the job coach, and they were doing a variety of tasks. They were great, you know, the manager, HR. So anyway, so then it got to the point where they said to us, you don't need to come anymore. We got it, you know, we love the clients, and, you know, our employees will supervise them like they supervise everyone else. So we said, fine, but here was our dilemma. Our dilemma was, how are they getting to work? So we would have the staff person drive them all the way out to Vernon Hills in the morning. I think they worked 3 days a week, and then the staff person would leave at 2 o'clock. No, they left earlier because we had to get them back by 3. Would leave probably after 1, especially the winter time, which was very challenging to drive all the way out there. Get them back to our day program so they could get picked up by residential staff, or we would drop them off at home because they lived in our residential program. It wasn't a real good use of our staff time either, when we could be expanding into other areas. So here was the dilemma. PACE, which certainly is a resource for our individuals for transportation, the problem was across county lines, because they lived in Cook County and the Lowe's was in Lake County. It was the next dilemma. Anyway, so we had contacted PACE, and I called the individual. Anyway, what we were able to work out was they picked them up in Arlington Heights, the PACE vehicle, PACE van. They drove them all the way out to Vernon Hills and cross county lines, and that's it. And the clients loved it because they felt more independent. It took a long time. So now, probably for the last, it's gotta be about 2 years, they get up, the PACE van picks them up, they take them to work, they're supervised by the employees at Lowe's, they come back by themselves, and once in a while I see one of them, and he couldn't be prouder, because, you know, I think, I don't need your help anymore, and I take the bus by myself, and I have the manager supervises me, and, you know, it was a long time, but we stayed on top of it. Pace worked with us, and, I mean, to see these two individuals, if you could have saw the before and the after, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's such a great story, and that's really what it's about. It took longer than I would have liked, but the point is, we got there, and we got the outcome, and it was working with the families, because one of the families, I have to say, was not too happy when they thought of Pace picking up their son or daughter, and Clearbrook not taking them. It felt it was safer with us, but both of the clients were pretty independent and live in a residential that's it's only partially supervised anyway. They're not in a 24-hour residential program, so certainly they were capable. So we'll do whatever it takes. Transportation can be a challenge at times, no doubt about it, but we do everything we can. And if something happens that we can't, we get them in a job and the transportation isn't there in a group in a supported employment setting, then we transport them, because you know what, we want to make sure they get to their job, and that is not a barrier to employment. So, yes.
So the model you're discussing right there, or even the enclaves with the support employment, those are DRS contracts, correct? Are those people who are living with you residentially? Can you
Yeah.
clarify which
Okay.
services?
So Doors has two contracts. They have it's a milestone contract, which basically is you work with a person one-on-one, you place them in a job, at 90 days, Doors will close the case, you know, assuming that everything is, you know, the client's independent, everything's good to go, and the case is closed. We also have, through Department of Rehab Services, a supported employment contract, which is something new. Interesting, how they define supported employment is different than the group of supported employment that we define. So it's basically working one-on-one with an individual for up to 24 months. They call that supported employment, and we're paid by phases, like every 8 weeks. That's a model that unfortunately we are not in a situation to support to any great degree. I think our contract for supported employment was for 2 individuals, because 24 months is, I think it's 24, isn't it? Is a long time to support someone. And I'm sure like other organizations, we're all experiencing staff shortages. So we want to maximize our opportunities. So actually, with the milestone contract, we just ask for an increase. We'll see if we get it, because we're able to place people independently through Department of Rehab Services. Supported employment, we can't do it. I'm not going to take a client and make a commitment for 24 months. And those are usually individuals that definitely need that coaching for that amount of time. What we're finding is even when it gets to 18 months, we're not even sure if they'll ever be independent, whether it's not the right placement or it's just, this is not the right kind of setting. They're always going to need more support, or it appears that way.
So the enclave model that you're talking about, that's not through DRS then? Are those clients of yours?
No, that is not through DRS.
So how is that?
That would be the DHS funding.
Oh, so someone has funding, whether it be
Yes.
home-based or SILA or something that they're using?
Yes,
everything?
yes.
Okay.
So, we also do private pay, but, you know, when someone comes to us and says they don't have funding, I always at least refer them to Doors, because, you know, the private pay rate, I think for individual, we rarely have, it's like $35 an hour for job development, and then placement, we're supporting them individually, I think it's $25. Our training, again, if someone doesn't have funds, and they just come for the community training piece, that's like $13 an hour. We do, I will tell you though, because only again, it's, you know, we all have to pay to get to our jobs. So we do, if we transport the clients, we charge them $2 each way. You know, I do tell you something funny. So usually people call, they always call to say, this is too costly, this and that. I had a call the other day from a parent saying, you know, you don't charge enough for transportation. You know, Pace charges $3 1/4. You guys are only charging $2, and someone else, the township charges $2.50. You need to raise your rates. I said, well, I don't think we're gonna do that, so anyway, yes.
Being kind of new to this, you're using acronyms, I think, I don't understand, like.
I'm sorry.
Doors.
Oh, yes, Department of Rehabilitation Services,
What was the question?
that I'm using acronyms.
That's doors.
Oh, okay.
Anything else? I think I used my time. Yes,
One quick one, in the enclaves, are they paid?
are they what?
Is they paid employment
Oh, for the clients?
in the enclave?
It's paid for anyone who is in a job, yes. So, I would say our average salaries for individuals is probably about $10 to $11 an hour, actually, so.
Okay, thank you, Eileen.
Okay.
Just one question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes.
What would be an example of an enclave job? You said there's 4 people together, that
3 or 4.
3 or 4, and what would be an example?
Okay, so we have a restaurant that we work with in Algonquin, and we have 3 clients that go there. They've been there since 2007. They roll silverware. That's an enclave. Walmart is an enclave where there's 2 or 3 people that work there, and they do, I forgot what merchandise? No. What is, where they're organizing the shelves. There's a term for it. It's not stocking, they use some other word. Anyway, facing, there you go, facing. So where it's more than one individual, okay?
Now, are they working together as a team in the store? Are they in different
Usually,
places
yes,
across the
yes,
store?
but if the individuals can be in other parts of the store and still do their, get the support they need, we would be open to that. The ones we're at now, they're doing the same job. Okay?
I am Nanette Cohn, Director of Individualized Employment Development for JVS Chicago. We are now officially merged with Jewish Child and Family Services as of July 1 of this year, which means JVS is a program of JCFS, which allows us, we're really excited about it because it allows us to provide more continuum of services for individuals with disabilities from birth to adulthood. As the Director of Employment, as in my title of individualized, everything we do is individualized to the person. Like many of the other organizations, we focus on what that individual is looking for, what their goals are, what their desires, what they can do, what they don't want to do, where they want to do it. So we get to know the individual very well. We work in employment with individuals ages 16 on up. That means they can be in school as well as out of school youth, as well as adults. We have various funding sources, which includes the county, the state, the federal government. And so when you call JVS for services for employment services, the number that's on the back of the brochure, the first number there, I believe it's 866-INFO-JVS is what it spells out, but the numbers are there. That phone is answered by licensed social workers who gather some basic information to determine which staff member is best suited to serve the individual. So they might get in depth about certain areas of where you live, what's your income, what do you want to do, can you work independently, have you ever had a job before? So they really get to a basic overview of the individual, and then they'll refer that individual to the proper program or staff member. So we like to say, don't worry about funding. We can hopefully find a way for you to fit in, but if all else fails, we do have private pay as well. We serve, there's a whole menu of services, and this is dependent on the funding stream that the individual is eligible for, but we have things like paid work experiences for youth who have never had a job before. We can work with the employer and have them really do the job at the work site and give them a paycheck for it. So we're not only helping with the on-the-job skills, but we're also helping with the budgeting and the transportation to and from. We also can provide job coaching services, but like I tell my job coaches, I wish we didn't have any job coaches because their goal is not to be with the person 24/7, but to wean off and not be as intensive. The more time we spend with an individual in the beginning, the better the match can be, so the less the coaching needs to be towards the end of services. We serve individuals in Cook County, but we also serve Lake and DuPage counties as well, so we're fairly large. My staff, I have a staff of about 25 individuals that range from employment specialists who get the individual ready for employment, assessing their job readiness skills, asking them questions like, how are you going to get to work? What are the other barriers that you currently have or challenges that you currently have to work? So let's eliminate those now, or work around your school schedule so you can work independently and successfully. We do have various strategies, including customized employment, that all my staff is trained in to use with the individual as well as the employer. We say we have two clients. We have the job seeker and we have the employer. Because if one of them is not happy, it's not going to work. So we have a team approach to serving individuals. Our job seekers, they're assigned an employment specialist, but they also have the supervisor of the program working with them, as well as our employer services representatives. Those individuals know exactly what the employer wants and then match the skills of the job seeker to what the employer wants. If there's no job out there, we will create a job for an individual based on what their skill level is. We serve a couple hundred individuals a year in the various programs with the various supports, everything from supported employment to employment with no supports. All the work that we do is competitive integrated employment. So they're working side by side with individuals in the community at a regular job. And so when they walk in the door, nobody knows anything different. They're part of the team and inclusive into the work environment. I think that's about it. I don't want to get really into if you're, live in this county and you are at this age, you're in this program. We don't like to talk about that because the services are the same. They're very supportive. And also because we're part of a larger organization, we do have things like supportive funds that we can use with individuals. We have subsidized employment situations where it's like a trial work period where the individual gets paid, the employer gets to look at the individual, and then employment is the ultimate end of that system. So there's a variety of different things that we can do with individuals. Sometimes get very creative, and that's the one I say characteristic I look for in staff when hiring my staff is how creative are they? What have they done in the past that they can think out of the box, because sometimes we have to. I think that's about it. I don't want to repeat too much of what anybody else said, so I'm trying to be conscious of that.
So for your customized employment piece,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to do an employment contract with DRS?
We use customized employment through all programs. It's a technique, it's not a program. So as I said, all my staff is trained in it, so every person will get components of supported employment based on what their needs are. Mm-hmm.
Just to clarify, the supported employment is the DRS.
We have DRS and we're beginning with DD.
It's used for 24 months.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. We typically, in our supported employment program, are able to place somebody within a 3-month period and then follow them up for the rest of the time. And the DD obviously is a longer period of support that we're able to provide.
Is there a difference between like a DRS contract and a DRS ticket to work? I mean, not DRS ticket to work.
The ticket to work?
Yeah.
The goal is the same, is employment and maintaining employment. How the provider gets paid is different, which shouldn't.
You do both, I guess, is my question.
The way JVS works is we let Doors do the ticket part of it, and we do the other part of it. And it's a really good relationship that way, and everyone's fine with it.
Okay.
So if you do have a ticket, I would suggest you give it to DRS.
They already have one.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so it shouldn't impede, yeah, it shouldn't impede on any services that you get from any provider.
So you don't provide employment for people who need support beyond the 2 years, like somebody that would need somebody with them?
No, we do if through DD, through home-based waiver.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, well, thank you to Connect to Community for hosting these things. These are really great events, so I'd encourage you to come back to more of these in the future. They've got a lot of good speakers out here. And I'll just start by saying that there's so much redundancy in what all of our programs do that there are a lot of acronyms and things like that. But I think our overall goal is the same whether we have a doors contract or not. We want to help people find jobs. And sometimes that requires a lot of support, sometimes that requires little. But I'll try to cut out some of the things that we've already discussed. I'm Casey Burke, I'm from Little City. Our headquarters is in Palatine. But when you talk about our employment services, we're talking about a reach maybe from the Waukegan area all the way to Downers Grove. So our employment program has a pretty wide swath. Little City also has the children's programs, the adult residential programs, a whole host of things. But I mean, we're all here to talk about employment today. So we've been employment heavy. So I'm going to ask, I know my time is short, but I'm going to ask for 2 minutes of your time to just indulge me in something kind of fun. And it's just to kind of recognize, like all of our well, Clearbrook and JVS probably, I'm not sure about yours. We've all been around for 50 or 60 years, right? We were started in these basements because of parents who wanted something better. So if we kind of flash back to a different time, well, the sound doesn't work, but it's okay.
And now it's Bill Holland coming in on pits in car 3.
So I'm not a racing fan, right? But you guys have seen, I don't know if you are either. You guys have seen like NASCAR. This is the pit stop. Okay.
Having a bit of trouble with that wheel nut. Everybody standing by. The driver getting refreshment.
Driver's getting something to drink. Maybe a sandwich, right? Okay. This is getting painful. Stick with it. We're getting there. Okay, we'll wipe the windshield. And good. So like, just over a minute, right? Okay. So 5 years ago.
All the guys are lined up, ready?
A little different, right? So I think, like in this case, advances in technology kind of drive this, and there's a competitive nature that kind of drives this. I need to navigate off this page. How do I get out of here? There we go. But okay, that same kind of premise is true for our organizations too. We cannot continue to do things the way that we did in 1950 and stay alive. We have to merge. We have to increase our service delivery. We have to change the way we're doing things. We have to go out and find grant dollars and fight for everything. But One of the things that we see coming up more and more now is this fight for employment. So not necessarily just going to a center-based program and being safe and happy, but actually going out and trying new things. So we're beginning with kind of the definition of what employment first is. So this is an idea, and this is where we work from, is that employment in the general workforce should be the first and preferred outcome of publicly funded services. So someone who's receiving some kind of assistance, if they are able to, should be working, right? Not everyone wants to, and somebody was talking about kind of forced motivation, and that's a tough argument to make when someone has no desire to work, might not have the proper supports to work. Mom and dad kind of provide and make things, and so I just want to do my rec and social activities. That person is not really a candidate for our employment programs. That person is maybe a candidate for some of our other rec and leisure type of things. So we are looking at people who really have that desire to work and want to do that not at a full-time level, but as a component of their life. I think we need to recognize that employment is our identity. When we all got up today, we said who we were and then where we worked. When you meet someone at a party, you say who you are, and then what's the natural next question? What do you do? Employment is a part of who we are, and that doesn't change just because we have cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, other kind of disability. Employment can be a big part of what we're doing. But if we go to kind of what the concepts are, the Department of Labor has gotten involved in this, and they have pushed, and other entities have pushed. This is a real issue now because it's getting funded. There are many more dollars out there that fund employment programs that we are all going after because we recognize that not only do we want to do this, and not only do your sons and daughters and loved ones want to work, but our government has recognized that, oh gosh, these folks will actually want to get into the workplace, and we're going to fund some of these programs. So whether it is DRS or DDD or another, the alphabet soup, this is a real thing, and it's why we're all coming together to discuss these employment opportunities. For me, employment is not a sheltered workshop where someone's earning minimum wages or sub-minimum wages. For me, enclaves is not employment, but we have enclaves. We have the groups that go out to Northwest Community Hospital and do environmental recycling. We've got a group that does paint recycling. Enclaves are paid by the agency, right? Now, while they can be good experiences, well, you have a slightly different thing, but for the most part, an enclave is paid by the agency, and that's why DOORS does not pay for it, because the agency is paying the person, right? The employer is not paying the person. So we want someone to be as fully independent as possible, and that means working in the community. Employer of record pays the person, okay? So if I'm working at the hospital, I don't want Little City to pay the person. I want the hospital to pay the person, supervise the person, and advance that person. I'm not going to get into WIOA because this is another of the alphabet soup, but this helps, okay? This is something that was signed several years ago. Obama brought it back and kind of reworded some things. There's some purpose behind it, is basically to provide more opportunities in the workforce. The impact to us really falls at that middle one. WIOA says that 15% of DOORS funding needs to go to youth with disabilities. We have DOORS contracts, well, some of us do, so we recognize that we can take advantage of that. Yes, we want to do a good thing. We want to put people to work, but we also have to go where the money's at, and we recognize that there is more money in employment than there ever has been. Part of it is because of WIOA. So there are contracts available through the Division of Rehab. We've mentioned Milestone and SEP. We have both of those. The agencies will have varying numbers in those. For example, I think someone said they have 2 placements in SEP. It might have been you, Eileen. Little Cities is much higher, so we actually value that contract. So there's a little difference there. I understand why 2 would be tough because it is a longer-term program. A Milestone, a placement, is 90 days, so you got to be independent in 3 months. It's really quick. And we'll be there after the fact for some follow-along supports, but you have to be independent. In the SEP program, we like that because so many of the individuals who live with us or come to our programs need longer-term support. The rates that are funded through the DHS Developmental Disabilities Program are so ridiculously low that we can't afford to send job coaches out and use those rates. We would rather use the DRS supported employment funding. It can stay open for 2 years, but really once you place someone, you keep them open about 9 months. So instead of 90 days, you got 9 months to get the person independent. And we don't just walk away and forget about the person after the fact, because look, we want to be able to go back to that job site and get additional placements. We want that person to be happy. We don't want them to go back to doors a year later and say, I got fired and Little City forgot about me. We want to stay involved. Some people don't start out just looking for the jobs, working with a job developer, seeking that competitive integrated employment. Some people need a little help and training. We don't do this really good at our center-based programs because it doesn't model what work is really like. So Little City started something called Employee Development Services, because we recognize, as I said earlier, employment is a huge part of people's identity. We know we don't do a really good job in like our day programs of preparing someone for actually working in the community by themselves. Although unemployment is low right now, there's always a tremendous opportunity for entry-level positions. Retail, food service, grocery, constant turnover, and especially at this time of the year, a lot of seasonal opportunities. We're not looking for a seasonal temporary opportunity, but we recognize that the seasonal opportunity at JCPenney, probably a bad example because they're probably going to the seasonal opportunity at Amazon, who's hiring like 600 people at once, right? They're going to have some natural churn, and they're going to need some of those seasonal and temporary people to stay on, right? So we recognize that there's a lot of openings out there, and oftentimes the individuals that we work with to go find those jobs don't have a ton of experience, or it's not really good experience because they've had like a one-on-one coach with them the entire time. We need folks to get independent pretty quickly. So we want to give them those experiences in those entry-level positions so they can be successful long-term. Oftentimes, we still operate some sheltered work. So that is assembly work, essentially, right? It's packaging, assembly, disassembly, things like that. And those people say, I don't want to stop it because I don't want to lose my paycheck. We can replace the paycheck from a sheltered work site really quickly. If you're working, I talked to a lady yesterday who's making $127 every 2 weeks in her sheltered work job. And she's there 5 hours a day. That's crazy, because we can get you those wages back in about 10, 11 hours at a community job site. You can still come back to Little City and you can pursue other things that are of interest, whether that's gardening or painting or whatever. If that's a cooking class, if that's life enriching programs, then that's fine. You still have your money, but you can do other things. We know that by putting people into new situations that they can build their social network. A lot of folks are a little bit isolated. They might, if they don't have a lot of friends, they can't go out in the evenings and the weekends. The only people they may see are the people they see at workshop or day program. We don't like that. We want to be able to expand those kind of social networks and build that capital, so when you get a new job, you automatically have more people. Now, we don't all like our coworkers, okay? But there might be one or two new people that you meet that can kind of expand your horizons, all right? So our EDS program, and again, this is funded through the waiver, so SILA or home-based funding would pay for employee development. We take the folks out to do some volunteerism. The exploratory informational interviews are going to businesses to actually see what the jobs are there, because the individuals who tell me they'd like to work at Portillo's because they love the food there might not have the concept that they have to slice 1,000 tomatoes, they might have to stand in the cold to take an order, they might have to take the garbage out or dump the grease or do something pretty terrible in order to get my free lunch. So, and that's a trade-off. We all negotiate our jobs. There are parts of it that we hate and parts of it that we love. And so if they're willing to make that trade-off, that's great, but we have to give them the information first, because a lot of our job seekers are just really ill-informed on what opportunities are out there. We have an employment curriculum that we are constantly trying to tweaking and adjusting. There needs to be some soft skill development. We can coach skills on the job, We can teach you how to bag or fold or do those things at the work site. The things that we need to work on really are those soft skills. It's how much information to share with people when you first met them. It's how to get through an interview and highlight my strengths and not talk about something completely inappropriate, right? Or share too much information. It's knowing and kind of committing to an employment search. So the employment curriculum is kind of a component, maybe 25 to 30% of your week. And then the paid work trials, but we take those off-site. We don't do those in our center-based programs. I don't want to teach someone how to run a point of sale in my building if they want to work at Walgreens. We can do some skills in the classroom, but I would rather get them in front of a hiring manager, get them hired, and then teach them at the Walgreens, rather than doing all this mock stuff indoor. I want somebody to be at the work site, and that's where we do the training. We do those paid work trials, though, to get people that exposure and to incentivize participation in the program. So we are paying them for that work, and that might be an enclave, it might be a short-term thing. We're sending a crew out to Gobert's Pumpkin Farm for a month to do some work. It's going to be exposure for our EDS folks. We know it's going to be short-term. We know the scope of work is limited, but that's for our folks who might be new to the program, who haven't done any kind of work before. So it's basic tasks. They're going to get a paycheck. It's going to be a heck of a lot more than that sheltered work paycheck they were getting, and hopefully it keeps them incentivized and enrolled in the program. Somebody's successful in employee development, they move to employment first, and this is where we get to the DOORS contracts, Division of Rehab. We want people to be safe and happy, right, still. We're not taking that away. We want competitive wages. We want reasonable accommodations. That does not mean that we're asking for special treatment. But if somebody needs something at the job site that the employer can provide to help that person do their job better, and it's not costly, and it's not something crazy, I'm not going in demanding all of this special treatment because I have a disability. I might be asking for a stool so I can reach a certain item. Or I might be asking, for an extra break at a certain time because I have to take a medication or something. A reasonable accommodation. We can consult with employers to help them understand that if they're a little worried about bringing someone in with a disability into their workplace. If they haven't done that before, we can help them with that. In our service, similar to what you've heard before, it's a one-on-one service. You have a job developer who's working with the individual job seeker. That's it. They're going to connect. They're going to do some of that pre-employment planning through discovery and assessment, but it's going to be a one-to-one support. And we're also going to, transportation is the biggest problem right now. It's getting people access to something that's going to work. Uber and Lyft are too expensive. Pace is always late. So what's in the middle? Is mom and dad driving? Are we driving? When we're talking about the employment placements in the community, Little City does not want to be driving them because it's not sustainable for that. We want to find a way for that person to get to and from their job on their own. It's not always perfect, but we want to stay as far removed from that as possible and try to get them onto those more public transportation systems, or building that social network where maybe they can carpool with somebody else who's working there. Okay. This relies on DOORS funding. This is free to you. If you go to DRS, you don't have to pay for anything. They are going to fund that case. They will refer the case to a provider like Clearbrook or Little City or someone who holds the contract. This is what, from start to finish, this is what it looks like when you come to work with us on employment placement. There's a referral from the DOORS office. We can help facilitate that if you're running into barriers. You're going to do some kind of an initial meet and greet with our job developer. That's that one-on-one. The intake assessment and planning is kind of that discovery and the steps afterwards. And we're going to start to get to know you. And for the folks leaving transition, they're coming with a lot of really great information. So sometimes this window does shorten a little bit. Most of the folks leaving transition have a good resume, but we also work with some individuals in our own programs who've done sheltered work for 30 years who have no resume. They have nothing that demonstrates what they've done in their life. So we've got to build that and make sure that that's relevant experience, that looks good, that's something we can market. You're not going to get a job if you don't apply. You have to start applying once we've made the commitment, we've worked with our developer, we have to start applying to positions that match our preferences. You have to interview, and sometimes that takes a while. We can assist with that, or we can step aside. We don't necessarily have to sit with you during the interview if you're capable of if you've demonstrated you can get through that on your own, but if you'd like us there, we can do that. That's a negotiation and can change over time. if you've been in 5 interviews that you say are fantastic and you've been turned down for all of them and they match, like it's a match, we might want to get involved to see what's going on. Once someone's hired, the developer is there with them through their first shifts to make sure that they are oriented properly, they meet their coworkers, I know where to punch in and where to put my lunch and all those little things, but also to start to learn how to do the job. Build those natural supports so the supervisors and coworkers become the primary support at the workplace, and we become secondary eventually as we fade away from the person. So on a milestone, that's 3 months. On an SEP, on a milestone, it's 90 days or 3 months, which is tough. I did not know how to do my job after 90 days. So that is really difficult. But on an SEP contract, that's much longer. Kind of a representative sample of the places that we have placed over the past year. We look to serve about 100 people a year just in the doors contracts. We're not going to place all of them. It's kind of a running total because people are dropping in and coming in, or dropping out and coming in at various times. The people who we've placed last fiscal year and into this year, we have a 97% retention rate at that 90 day. And we track beyond that, but once someone gets a job, they keep it. And that's important to us because we're creating a relationship with the business, with the family, with the job seeker. We don't want any of that to be ruined, so we're not going to walk away after that 90 day and say, see you later. If someone has issues after the fact, we can go and help out a little bit, talk to a manager, whatever need be. Just want to make sure I got all my other notes down. There's private pay options for all of this, as some other folks have said. It can get expensive with employment, but basically we're asking, the revenue on a private pay case would be exactly what we're getting from the state. So it can be kind of expensive. But if you're looking for maybe intermittent services in our employee development class, that's a more cost-effective option to maybe trial some things out and see if it's working. Other than that, contact information is here, and thanks again for having us out.
Just really quickly, for the last 5-10 minutes, we're just going to jump in and give you a little bit of a background on CTC's customized employment piece. Everybody has a handout which has sort of an inquiry handout about CE services, and I'll be around, all of us will be around to answer questions after if we don't get to everything. But you know, we're a pure customized employment initiative. They've been doing it for a million years. We've been doing it for 2. So we started with our first job seeker in 2016, and we have 2 employment specialists. Stand up. Beth and Dawn. Beth Dowd and Dawn Georgia are our employment specialists. They work one-on-one with job seekers. Our process is very individualized, and it's a very collaborative process with families and with the job seeker. So we work together as a team. It is not like handing your case over to someone else and saying, here, find a job for my son or daughter. We work together to do that. It's very much a partnership. It's an individualized approach. We look at job seeker strengths, interests, talents, and the woman was talking about Starbucks, I think had to go, but sometimes someone will say, I want to work at Starbucks, and you dig a little deeper, and the reason they want to work at Starbucks is because they just like to drink coffee, or it isn't necessarily attached to the job. So sometimes if you can dig a little deeper and find out what that motivation is. There was a young man who really wanted to work at Target for the longest time, and it turned out he just liked wearing a red shirt. So you can do that other places. You don't have to work at Target. So by really working through a discovery process with our job seekers, that's what we try to work on. Employment's for everybody. We believe that anybody can work if they have that motivation and the family support behind it. Those are the 2 main things we look for in a job seeker candidate. They really, really want to work, and they really, really have the support of their family to make not only the employment process work, but also the job work once we find it.
The bottom line matches job seekers.
Yeah. We are always matching a job seeker's skills to an employer's needs. It's not charity. We are filling a need that a business has that our job seeker can fill. We only generally work with 2 job seekers at a time, 1 for each for our employment specialists. It's generally a 6 to 12 month process and about 150 hours of work. We spend 30, I know, I'm winging through this, sorry.
Okay.
But we don't have too much time. We spend 30 to 40 hours on discovery when we start out, meeting your son or daughter. We take them out to the community. We observe them doing activities that they love to do, whether they like to bowl, or they are in a book club, or maybe they have some rec programs that they participate in, or a day program they participate in. We want to see them in that environment. We want to learn about them, how they react out in the community. We talk a lot to their circle of support, their relatives, their friends, their teachers, if they have speech therapists, community members that they know, neighbors. Those are the people who really see them in a different light. And as parents, I think we all know that sometimes you go to a IEP meeting or something and the teacher will say, oh, John is so great at this, and boy, he's sure not great at that at home. So other people see your son or daughter in a different light and in a different environment, and we want to learn about that too, because we as parents don't always know everything about our son or daughter. So discovery, as I said, 30 to 40 hours. We learn as much as we can about your individual job seeker, and that moves us to the creation of a dynamic resume. These are some of the discovery activities we've done with the job seekers we've worked with. We watch them cook. You can do a fun activity like cooking and see, can they measure? Can they follow a recipe? It's not necessarily just the cooking activity. We're looking at skills that you can build on for a job. So those are the things we were trying to see from a discovery perspective. The job seeker then, after all the discovery is done, creates a dynamic resume, usually a PowerPoint that they present at a community action team meeting. A CAT meeting brings together the job seeker, their family, their friends, their circle of support, as well as community members who don't know that job seeker. It's a lot of fun. It's my favorite part of customized employment, at least the way we do it, because after you present it and their themes of what we think we've seen as we've learned about them, then it's just a massive brainstorming session where people we make lists and lists of things. Okay, what falls into those categories? We usually come out with easily 30, 40 ideas. Now, some of them aren't going to be a good fit. Sometimes the job seeker's like, well, I don't want to do that. But that's fine. You have this huge list, you pare it down, and that's where you start your job development. So then the employment specialist will take all those ideas. They'll work with the job seeker to decide what's their favorites, what do they want to pursue first, and we get out into the community and do informational tours of those kind of businesses. Sometimes we bring the job seeker with, sometimes we go alone first to kind of see, do we think it's a good fit before we bring them in? But that's the way of getting that one-on-one connection with an employer. They were talking about jobs that the managers leave. That is a real problem with retail, and we tend to avoid it because of that problem. You can have a perfect fit, and 6 months later, it's gone, and it's no reflection on the job, the employee. So we really kind of try to focus on maybe smaller businesses or businesses that are family run or where we really make a good connection. Sometimes we have, you'll see as we go through, we place people in bigger situations, but we generally avoid retail and fast food kind of stuff just for that reason. Job carving, our employment specialists are great at it. If we have a piece of a job that someone can do, then they can carve it out. What I love about that process is that if you have a higher paid person at a company or at a location doing work that is entry-level work, because it's just part of their job, imagine how much more productive that person could be if someone else was doing that stuff. There was a story about a nursing shift at a hospital where the nurses at the end of their shift, they had to do all this different paperwork and they all hated it because they wanted to get out of there, they were done. If someone could come in and just do that piece of their job, that frees them up to do stuff, higher level employment work, while it's being taken care of by somebody who would be perfect for that job. So that's what we try to look for, opportunities to make a business more productive, more successful by taking some of those entry-level tasks away from them and letting their other employees do what they do best. So quickly, these are the people we've worked with so far. AJ was our our guinea pig, our very first person in 2016. He celebrated his 1-year anniversary. Actually, now it's like, he's been there like 18 months or 20 months now, working for the Hoffman Estates Park District. He's doing fantastic. Christina works at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. She recently celebrated her 1-year anniversary. Little City was her job coaching for that. We partner up. After we find a position, we partner up, open a case with DRS, and get job coaching for that job seeker through another entity. So we've worked both with JVS Chicago and Little City with great success. Christina's had a huge love of makeup. That was one of her vocational themes. She really liked it. So she also has a little Mary Kay business on the side. So she's scratching that itch with that job while she's working at the library. Andrew had a fine arts degree, and he is now doing some art teaching for the Buffalo Grove Park District, which is sort of that art part, but he also loved theater and comics and that kind of thing, so he's working at the Regal Theater as a ticket taker as well. So they have 2 jobs. Allison also has 2 jobs. She's working as a food service assistant at the Grand at Twin Lakes and as a salon assistant at Avalon Spa. Both fantastic. What keeps these job seekers, what sets them apart from people is they really wanted to work. And they were working hard and had the family support behind them to make it a reality. Once we pair up with DRS and get job coaching through another entity, we work both with them. It's Little City, for example. We coordinate with them to make sure things are going well. We coordinate with the family, and we coordinate with the employer. Just as I don't know if it was Nanette who said, our clients are the job seeker and the employer. We want everybody to be happy. That breeds success. If you have an employer who has a successful placement with someone with a disability, they're going to tell somebody else that they have a successful placement with somebody with a disability. And that's how you grow that feeling that they were speaking of, that they don't have to talk people into hiring our kids because they've seen it work for others. I think success breeds success. And the family is always key to the smooth running of customized employment and employment. The transportation issue is huge. It's something we're all addressing, but that's a big part. If you have to have that commitment on the part of the family to make it work. And that's something us as families have to work through. And these are just some of the things, supports to maximize success, self-advocacy skills, work on them at home, try to get your kids to do whatever tasks you can around the house because those can translate to really good skills out in the labor force. What to expect, as I said, 6 to 12 months, it's about 150 hours. The cost is about $5,000, but we ask families to pay $950, so it's about 20% of our costs. CTC covers the balance of the cost through our fundraising, and grant writing, and donations. We, as I said, tend to only work with 2 job seekers at once, partly because it's a one-on-one process and we want to give all that attention to the job seeker, but it's also financial as well. If we get some wonderful person out there who wants to donate a lot of money, we'll work with more job seekers. That's all, we're all working on that, right? But there is the handout is on the table with you, and feel free to come up after if you have questions or reach out to us via email. We're happy to set up, any kind of inquiry interviews with you or to answer any questions that you have. I think that's it. We're at 11:30, but feel free to come up and speak with the panelists one-on-one. And if you wouldn't mind, please filling out your evaluations and either leave them on the table or put them out as you go out. Thanks so much for everybody for coming. Appreciate it.